Hello everyone, today's video is all about a global minimum tax. So that is what is being proposed by President Joe Biden over in the States. This is basically a reaction to a lot of the multinationals being able to manipulate where they pay taxes, shifting profits to low tax jurisdictions, and basically in this current climate of government spending hundreds of billions on COVID, it's pushed the tax avoidance further up the political agenda, and there's real thoughts now to try and do something about it. Now there has been something going on for several years under the in the mechanisms of the G20 and the OECD, the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. They have looked at this problem, but the US has never really been fully engaged with this until now. So basically what it is that the international rules for taxation were written decades ago and don't really fit the current way that a lot of companies are structured. For example, digital online businesses. Principally around the fact that you pay profits where you have a business presence. And it's all about, do you have an establishment in the territory? Do you have staff? Do you have personnel? Do you have an offices? Do you have salespeople on the ground? And a lot of big companies can get around this and say, well, actually, no, we don't, even though they're making a fortune in countries by selling online. They may not have a physical presence in these territories, so they don't have to pay tax in those countries, even though there may be millions of citizens of those countries buying their products. Likewise, shifting profits overseas by paying huge royalty fees, licensing fees to associated corporate group members based in offshore tax havens. So this problem is not new. It's been getting more and more over the last sort of 10 years or so. So anyway, the OECD G20 been trying to address it. In fact, it's got a name. It's called BEPS, B-E-P-S, Base Erosion and Profit Shifting. And basically what happened was that this OECD, the rich countries think tank, couldn't come to any real consensus, and there was a real delay in trying to bring in these rules to change the international rules on taxation, to harmonize the rules. And a lot of countries got frustrated and they said, look, we can't wait for this. We're going to just unilaterally bring in certain measures. Like in the UK, we have this digital services tax where big companies pay a small percentage of their turnover, not their profits, on their turnover. That goes to the UK government. The French have got something similar. And again, it's a lot of geopolitics involved, because at the time when this was happening a year or two ago, the Americans kicked off and said, look, you cannot tax our US countries like this. Tax, that is not how to do it. So, but now we've got to change the administration in America, and Biden's in it. It's very much, he's actually for it. He's saying, look, let's, whilst he's not for unilateral taxation, where all these different countries just come up and have a slice of US tax, US companies' profits or revenues and tax them accordingly. He's saying, look, let us work together all across the country, all across the world, and we'll have what's known as a global minimum corporate rate of tax. So that's basically trying to get every country, or every country in the OECD, there's 135 countries, to agree on a minimal rate of corporation tax, which is basically quite a big deal. And in his idea, that will address this this base erosion and profit shifting, where corporations can move profits wherever they like. If every country is in agreement on a minimal rate of tax to be implied, then that should stop all the lost revenue to the various treasuries coffers throughout the world. So it's basically it's what they call for the last 20 years there's been what they call a race to the bottom to try and lower corporation tax rates across the world, getting lower and lower. And it's one thing that we even adopted in the UK when George Osborne was Chancellor. He cut the rate of corporation tax from 28% down to 19%. Now, advocates of this would say, look, free market economics, advantages of globalization, cheaper products, more choice. It fosters business to have low rates of corporation tax. And proponents of this say, well, no, the opposite. It's you're losing revenue in times of pandemics. We need to be raising more revenue. So there's arguments on both sides for having these rates of corporation tax. For, like I said, 20 years or so, the so-called race to the bottom, they've been getting lower and lower globally. But now that Biden's trying to encourage the rest of the world to have a minimum level of corporation tax. So, the US multinationals are the serious offenders when it comes to not paying much tax. Call them offenders. It's maybe a disingenuous term. They're obviously they're not doing anything illegal. They're playing by the rules. It's just, are the rules fit for purpose? That's the argument. So, in the 90s, the US multinationals shifted around about 10% of their revenues were shifted to tax havens. That's now at about 30%. So there is more and more profit shifting and tax planning going on. Hence, the reason why, combined with the cost of the pandemic, that this has come right to the top of the political agenda. So what would it's logistically, though, to get 135 nations to agree on a minimum rate of tax is a big ask. It really is. And I can't see it happening for many years, if at all. Just take the EU, for example. And the EU finds it hard to agree. So just the EU as a subset of the OECD. So what's that? 27 countries. Look at the range of corporation tax in the EU. We've got 9% in Hungary, 12.5% in Ireland, and 33% in France. So that's such a wide range. To try and agree on a one rate. Now, the rate that Washington is trying to impose is 21%. They say that every country around the world should impose at least 21% corporation tax on companies that do business in these jurisdictions. So whether or not that will get legs and we'll see that happening, who knows? But that is the current thinking from the US administration, the new Biden administration, this so-called global minimum corporate tax rate. So let's watch this space and see what happens. Now, of course, we in the UK are below that anyway. We're 19%, but you remember in the budget of last month in March, it was proposed that would go up for certain size businesses, making a certain level of profits to 25% in about 3 years' time. So let's see what happens to that. It could be that the UK may get on board with this. So we just don't know, because we're already at that sort of level that Washington is proposing. But it would be a real game changer in the international tax world if there was an agreed upon global minimum corporate tax rate. So there you go. Let's see what happens. But if you like this video, as always, please do subscribe right there, and I will see you soon.